All right, today we're diving into something truly incredible, an ecosystem that's often overlooked but is absolutely vital. We're talking about mangroves, the real unsung guardians of our coasts. So, let me just start with a question for you. What if I told you that nature's best defense for our coastlines wasn't some massive concrete wall or a fancy piece of engineering, but a tree? I know, it might sound a little out there, but stick with me because it is absolutely real. And that brings us right here to these unsung coastal guardians. I mean, just think about where they live. It's gotta be one of the toughest places on the planet for anything to grow, right on that messy, salty, chaotic edge where the land and the sea are constantly battling it out. Okay, so what is a mangrove exactly? Well, first off, it's not just one single type of tree. It's a whole group of different trees and shrubs that all share this amazing ability to tolerate salt water. And you've got to appreciate the world they live in. Just imagine trying to grow with your roots buried in thick mud, constantly soaked in salt water, with barely any oxygen. For pretty much any other plant, that's a death sentence. But for a mangrove, yeah, that's just a regular Tuesday.
You know, to live in a place like that, you can't just be any old plant. You need some serious superpowers. And that's exactly what we're going to look at now, the mangrove's superhero adaptations. This is the stuff that lets them totally dominate where other plants can't even get a foothold.
First up, the breathing problem, right? Your roots are stuck in this thick, oxygen-starved mud. So what do? Simple. You grow your own snorkels. That's basically what these pneumatophores are. They're these special roots that grow upwards out of the mud and water so they can literally breathe oxygen right out of the air. How clever is that? Okay, next challenge. How do you make sure your kids survive in such a harsh world? Well, mangroves have this incredible strategy called viviparity. You can think of it like a live birth for plants. The seed actually starts growing into a little seedling, a propagule, while it's still attached to the parent tree. It gets a major head start. So by the time it falls off, it's not a helpless seed. It's a tough little plant, ready to float away and find a new home.
And last but not least, how do you keep from getting knocked over by constant waves and shifting tides? You build your own foundation. And that's where these stilt roots come in. They arch out from the main trunk, digging down into the mud, and creating this incredibly strong, wide base. It's like a built-in, living tripod that holds the tree steady no matter what the ocean throws at it.
So let's recap this toolkit. You've got breathing roots that act like snorkels, a live birth strategy to give their young a fighting chance, these amazing stilt roots for anchoring, and of course, that crazy tolerance for salt water. You put all that together, and what do you get? A plant that is perfectly engineered to rule the coastline.
But here's the thing. All those incredible adaptations aren't just for the mangrove's own survival. They're what allow these trees to do some truly heroic things for the rest of the planet. And that brings us to the big question. Why do these mangroves matter so much?
Well, first and foremost, they are our living front line of defense against the ocean. Think of them as a natural seawall. That incredibly dense, tangled web of roots, it acts like a giant shock absorber, soaking up the power from massive storm surges, floods, and even hurricanes. They lock the coastline in place, stopping erosion in its tracks and protecting the people and homes right behind them. And that complex root system does something else too. It creates an unbelievable habitat. Mangrove forests are just teeming with life. They are biodiversity hotspots. It's a safe place for fish, shellfish, even sea turtles. And maybe most importantly, they're like a giant nursery for all sorts of species we rely on, like shrimp and crabs. For so many of these creatures, the mangrove is their first and most important home.
Just how critical are we talking? Get a load of this number. 80%. It's estimated that a whopping 80% of the global fish catch, the fish that end up on our plates, depends directly or indirectly on these mangrove forests. That is a mind-blowing connection between these trees and our food security.
And if that wasn't enough, they have another hidden superpower. They are carbon-storing machines. Now, we all hear about how great tropical rainforests are at this, right? But check this out. For the same amount of space, a mangrove forest can lock away up to 5 times more carbon in its rich soil than a tropical forest can. 5 times! That makes them one of our most important allies in tackling climate change. Oh, and they're not done yet? They're also nature's water purifiers. That same maze of roots that we talked about, it acts like a giant filter. As water runs off the land towards the ocean, the roots trap all the gunk, sediments, pollutants, you name it. This keeps the water crystal clear, which is absolutely essential for their delicate neighbors like coral reefs and seagrass beds. So these trees are superheroes. They protect our coasts, they house incredible biodiversity, they fight climate change, but there's a problem, a big one. Our guardians are in peril. And now we have to talk about the villains of this story, the threats that are putting them at risk. And sadly, when you look at the main culprits, the fingers point right back at us. Huge stretches of mangrove forest are being wiped out for shrimp farming. That's the aquaculture you see there. Then there's urban development, overharvesting for timber, pollution runoff, and layered on top of all of that is the looming threat of climate change and rising sea levels. The scale of this destruction it's just devastating. We're not talking about a small, isolated problem. In some countries, they've already lost over 70% of their mangrove forests. Let that sink in. 70% just gone. So what does that loss actually look like on the ground? Well, this slide tells the whole story. It's a tale of two coastlines. On one side, with mangroves, you have a stable shore, bursting with life, clear water, and a natural shield against storms. But on the other side, without them, you get rapid erosion, lifeless mudflats, polluted water, and communities left totally exposed to the power of the ocean. The contrast couldn't be more clear. And that stark difference brings us to our final and maybe most sobering point, the uncertain future of our coasts. Because when we take these guardians out of the picture, we are fundamentally changing our relationship with the sea. And believe me, the stakes have never, ever been higher. And this isn't just some abstract idea, this is real life and death. Just look back at the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. The evidence from that tragedy was overwhelming. Villages that were still protected by healthy, intact mangrove forests suffered significantly fewer casualties and way less damage. These trees, they literally saved people's lives. So that leaves us with one last critical question. Our coastal guardians, these amazing living shields that protect us, feed us, and help keep our planet in balance, they are vanishing at an alarming rate. And we have to ask ourselves, when they're finally gone, who will be left to defend the coast?